The first 3 verses of Proverbs chapter 16 reads like this. We can make our own plans, but the Lord gives the right answer. People may be pure in their own eyes, but the Lord examines their motives. So commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed. In verse 9, he says, we can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps. And maybe the most recognizable verse in all of chapter 18 of Proverbs, or chapter 16 of Proverbs, is verse 18. Pride goes before destruction, and haughtiness before the fall. Proverbs 16, again, is all about the plans. Hey, boys, make plans, bathe your plans in prayers. But Christians actually have a totally different perspective on making plans for your life. You and I make plans all the time. We make plans for a summer vacation. We make plans for our retirement. We make plans for our careers, even when we're in high school, when we meet with the guidance counselor and decide, what do I want to do with my life? We're making plans for our future when we date a girl or a guy. We make plans on when we want to have kids and how many kids we want to have. We have all kinds of plans. And a lot of people, including you, are probably good at making plans. But Solomon says Christians and followers and lovers of God make plans differently. See, we don't just make plans with what makes sense on paper or what the greatest trends are in the financial or in the corporate world. Christians actually take our plans and merge it with our relationship with God. Now, here's a challenge for you. Christians, oftentimes, like me, I know I've done it before, we make our plans and then we ask God to come and bless our plans. God, this is what I like. This is what I want. This is what I want my future to be like. Can you sprinkle some blessing dust on it? Can you come and put your hands on it so that I will be successful? Solomon says, sons, I don't even want you to do that. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the Lord first and say, Lord, what are your plans for my life? I want to be a planner. I want to have a plan, but I don't want it to be just my plan. God, I want it to be your plan. I want to know the plans and the purposes that you have. Did you know the Bible teaches us that God has a plan and a purpose for your life? A plan and a purpose for your future? And I got to be honest. If I knew that God had a plan for my life, I would want to know it. And if you love and trust God, you got to understand God's plan and purpose for your life would be so much better than yours, regardless of what you have. So Solomon teaches his sons, hey, when it comes to your plans for your life, will you live open-handed? Will you take all of the dreams, all of the goals, all of the desires that you have for your life, and will you lay them out on the table in front of God and say, God, help me? God, which one of these is a desire of mine, but it's actually a pitfall? Which one of these is really something that's in my heart that's, come on, if I were to be honest about the motives, they're very self-serving, very self-seeking. God, I want to sacrifice those for the plans that you have. So instead of coming up with the plan and running with it and just hoping and praying that God will bless it, Solomon says, boys, I know that you've made some plans, but the only way they're going to be successful is if they're God's plans in your life. I know you've got some desires of your hearts, but sometimes our hearts can deceive us. So lean into the Lord because he will actually examine the motives. He examines the why behind the what in every plan of our life. Do you ever think about that? Do you ever look at your plans and say, why do I want this? Why do I want to see this happen in my own life? Is it because I'm trying to find my security and my comfort and my identity in somewhere, someone other than God? Because if that's the case, it's going to be really hard for God to want to bless those plans and for you to prosper in that area of your life. Solomon tells his sons, God not only cares about the what of your plans, but the why, the who it's going to impact, and the when. All of those things are connected to God's plans and purposes for your life. Now, if you realize that God had plans and purposes for your life, wouldn't you want to know them? And if you really knew who God was, you would trust that his plans and purposes are better than yours. Plans and purposes for our life. That's Proverbs chapter 16.